What's up, people? Nation Girl 30 here, fresh from my vacation in San Francisco. For those who have sent me birthday wishes either on YouTube or on Facebook, I thank you for those birthday wishes. You guys are awesome and amazing. But as promised, here is my Raw review for March 30th, my birthday. I actually had the opportunity to see maybe the last hour of Raw, so I actually had to go back and watch it while I was here. And I actually did have a chance to talk to my friends Freddie and Rico while I watched it while I was down there, and it was fun. You guys are awesome. But let's talk about the actual show. The opener, of course, was probably one of the best openers I have seen for any Raw after WrestleMania in a while. Now, Raw after WrestleMania has always been great. That's always been the Raw that people will look out for because it's always a beginning of something new. And it always ends up being a really great Raw to watch. It always is. And when you start off with Brock Lesnar, you know you mean business. You know that business is about to pick up and it's going to be a really great night. And it was. It was a great opener. My goodness. Brock Lesnar doesn't necessarily need a mouthpiece because pretty much his brute strength speaks for himself. But you got pretty much one of the most best mouthpieces, the best heel managers ever. Pretty much in this generation. And I'm talking about Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman came out there and was practically just laying it down. And we all know the famous hashtag that was going all around Twitter that night, Suplex City. Seriously, the entire crowd was chanting it. It made Brock Lesnar smile. It made me smile. I enjoyed that entire segment. But one thing that actually did make me enjoy it the most, well, not promo, but what made me really enjoy it the most was the fact that they actually did tease there was going to be a match. And they actually declared that he was actually going to cash in his rematch clause that night and have a match with Seth Rollins on Raw after a very long time of not doing so. You usually see Brock Lesnar on pay-per-views only. Seeing him on a Raw and wrestling on a Raw would have been a great moment. That was dashed at the last minute. That's the one thing that kind of bothered me. It really would have been great for WWE to give us a freebie for once, instead of us literally waiting for pay-per-views to actually see the match we want to see happen, and then they give us the matches that we don't want to see on Raw. Or sometimes we really wish they will hold out for a match and they end up putting it on Raw instead of waiting for a big pay-per-view for a big payout. Either or, it's conflicting. But seeing Brock Lesnar on Raw wrestling would have been a really great draw. It really would have been. But, and it was towards the middle of the show, Seth Rollins bailed. Really pissing off Brock Lesnar and pretty much having him go ballistic all over the place and literally leaving bodies in his wake. He took out Booker T. He took out JBL. He F5'd Michael Cole. He even F5'd twice a cameraman. And of course, Stephanie comes out and suspend him indefinitely and then talk about him putting a fine in. And actually fining him for an undisclosed amount. Honestly, guys, we've seen how this is going to happen. We know how this is going to end. We've seen the last time that Brock Lesnar went postal. The fact that when he was refused to get more money or a title shot or whatever, we knew that he went to WWE headquarters and pretty much harassed everybody in there until he got what he wanted. And eventually he got what he wanted. So why go through all this rigmarole when we know we're going to see it anyway? Just saying. You know, you kind of want to do something different here. Just saying. But either or, we know that he's going to eventually get his match with Seth Rollins. We're just going to probably wait until either Extreme Rules or Payback. Either or is going to be one of those pay-per-views. Because we know that Brock Lesnar is a part-timer getting full-time pay. I cannot mention that enough. That is an awesome deal. But besides all that, he's a part-timer. So he's going to be gone for a few months. But honestly, and I don't know if I said this. I probably did say this on my WrestleMania review. But it would have made sense for Brock to still have the title. Now knowing that he actually did sign a huge contract, it would have made sense. But I'm not getting into that again. But let's move on to some of the matches of the night. I will say that the Divas have impressed me for the last few months. They really have. They've improved greatly. Because they really do want to get respected in the business. And they really are up in the ante when it comes to what they know. Now, you end up having AJ Lee, Paige, and Naomi versus the Bella Twins and Natalya. I guess Natalya is a heel now. I guess. But I haven't been watching SmackDown. But I will say that I'm really impressed with all of them. Nikki has greatly improved. Brie has extremely improved, and Natalia has becoming a lot more agile when it comes to some of her moves. She's always been an in-ring vet, but she's really has improved as of late. Like it's leaps and bounds. But Naomi is, of course, doing a lot more stuff on her own, which really does make me happy because I'm tired of her being around her husband all the time. This chick can fight. She needs to be in her own matches. And having matches with some of the other divas is good too. It's great. And the fact that she's starting off on her own is really great to see. I really would hope for the day that she becomes a Divas champion, but we don't know when that's going to happen. But regardless, it was a great 6-woman Divas match, or 6-diva match. It was a really great match to watch. I enjoyed it. I don't know about anyone else, but I enjoyed it. But I will say the tag team matches that we had there. We had tag team matches with that also include one debut tag team that came in for that tag team. I guess a tag team battle royal was the Lucha Dragons, and I think it was Kalisto and Sin Cara. I'm actually excited to see a few luchadors in there, but we know what they do with luchadors. They don't really do them well. And I'm hoping that they really don't bury them or put them in matches where they just get squashed. But it was a really great debut. But speaking of squashed, you had the Ascension in there. Now, the Ascension should have been at WrestleMania that night, but they really weren't there at all. They were actually on that Raw after WrestleMania. And of course, they lost to the Lucha Dragons that actually made their debut as well. Why did the Ascension even bother? It's kind of messed up that they should have been at WrestleMania to begin with. But since they weren't there, and they ended up getting literally pinned cleanly by the Lucha Dragons, I really don't know what to say. I really don't. And it's just kind of messed up because they're a great tag team. They were really great at NXT, and they're just being massacred now. It really just kind of makes me sad to see that. They need the push. They really, really do need the push. And it kind of makes me sad that they actually just getting completely drowned out like that. But it's also nice to see a few luchadors in there because I enjoy watching Sin Cara. I enjoy watching Kalisto. I enjoy it. And speaking of debuts, we also saw another debut towards the end of the night, and that was Adrian Neville. My bad. Neville. He's actually Neville now, which is kind of just stupid. But I don't really know why they took the Adrian off. It made no sense to me. But honestly, he's phenomenal in the ring. He really is, especially against Curtis Axel, a.k.a. the Forgettable One. I don't even know why Curtis Axel bothers. But either or, Curtis Axel pretty much got his butt handed to him by Adrian Neville. But this was a debut match for Adrian Neville to get him over. And either or, he was over in my eyes to begin with because this guy was great in the ring in NXT. He's still great in the ring. And it's really happy. I was happy to actually see him on the Raw roster and see where he's going to go from there. I'm hoping they don't bury him. I'm hoping he has enough potential to have a decent feud with somebody. But we'll see. Moving on from there. We had a few championship matches to happen that night. Well, actually, we had one that got bailed out. And then we had another one that was an open invitation, which was John Cena's title, the U.S. title. Now, here's the one thing that kind of confused me a little bit. Now, well, we also had an IC title, but I'll talk about that. I'm talking the U.S. title first. Now, for the open invitation, you had Rusev that ended up losing the actual belt at WrestleMania 31 that previous night. So why didn't Rusev come out to get his belt back? Instead, we actually just saw Dean Ambrose. I love Dean Ambrose. I really do. And Dean Ambrose should have had a title by now. But Rusev lost his title. Don't he want it back? Isn't that the reason why he fussed at Lana? You know, that's the reason why he was kind of mad at Lana, because he blamed her for losing his title. And he had an opportunity to go get it back, but he ended up facing Goldust that night. Honestly, it made no sense. I mean, I don't know. It made no sense to me. But the match itself was great. I mean, good grief. Dean Ambrose pretty much gave Cena a run for his money. He kind of made Cena kind of work a little bit, which made it really great to watch. I love Dean Ambrose. I will always love Dean Ambrose. And I wanted Dean Ambrose to win. It made no sense for Cena to keep the belt. It didn't. It's a starter belt for him. He's already had it for his debut. He should have dropped it to Dean Ambrose that night. But instead, he kept it. That made no sense. And then let's talk about something that's not really consistent, but then also makes no sense as well. Now, Michael Cole said earlier in the night, this was for the first title match of the night, and this was for the IC belt between Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler. Now, I think it was Michael Cole that said that Dolph Ziggler beat Daniel Bryan twice 2 weeks prior to WrestleMania. Now, if he beat him 2 weeks prior to WrestleMania, that means that that pretty much earns him a shot to get the title at WrestleMania. It earns him a match at WrestleMania, but it doesn't earn him a title shot for the IC belt. It doesn't earn him a rematch for the IC belt because, number one, he was not the champion, and number two, that was 2 weeks prior, so that pretty much kind of voids it after WrestleMania. Not to mention that if he deserves a title shot, everybody else in the entire match deserves a title shot, including the champion. And here's another thing. Why was the champion at commentary instead of him actually being in the ring for his rematch? Because technically he lost his belt. He should have a rematch. Bad News Barrett should have been in the ring instead of Dolph Ziggler. And I don't really know why Dolph Ziggler had the title had the title match instead of Bad News Barrett. Don't really understand that logic at all. But either or, great feud between these two. Really. It really shows how much heart they both have. And the whole headbutting thing was hilarious. It was hilarious at WrestleMania 31. It's even funnier that night. And they really put on a great match. And of course, Dolph lost. But either or, Dolph Ziggler never looks bad in his matches. Even though he lost, he still looks good. So, and I don't mind it at all. I'm kind of happy that Daniel Bryan did keep the belt for a little while longer. And I really do believe that he's going to bring a little bit more worth to the IC belt than it already has. The person that actually brought more worth to it was Cody Rhodes. But I still think that Daniel Bryan has a lot to offer that belt. So I'm kind of happy he still holds it for a while. But let's move on to, and actually we can't really count the World Heavyweight Championship because of course they opt out. But let's talk about the actual main event towards the night. The main event I really didn't care much about because it was like you got Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns, and whoever else was teamed up at Ryback. I think it was Randy Orton, Ryback, and Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins and the two Stooges. Well, not really the two Stooges, but the two giants, Kane and Big Show, pretty much at their corner. Now, I really don't understand why Seth Rollins is still being monitored as like the next big thing. I don't really get it at all because just for some strange reason, they're really doing something to Seth Rollins' character to make him look like a complete idiot. Number one, with the feud with Randy Orton, did you really not think that you were going to be double-crossed? Come on. And number two, do you really think it's smart to upset a beast? Especially after you saw what he did to your ex-partner and to John Cena. Do you really think it makes sense to upset him and for him not to go crazy? I don't know. It's like he calls himself the architect, but it really seems like he's looking more like a clown by the day. It makes absolutely no sense what he's saying or what he's doing half the time. But honestly, I really don't know what to say about Seth Rollins anymore. Seth Rollins is looking like an idiot by the day, especially storyline-wise. And the only way that he can pretty much bring a little bit more respect is in his actions. Hence why he had a huge pop when he came out. When he came out the first time with the belt in hand. When we supposed to have that World Heavyweight Championship match, Seth Rollins had the biggest pop I've ever heard in my life. I mean, people were like, yeah! Like they were just chanting for this guy. Because what he did, seriously, that was brave. And the fact that he did that, and that was the most epic twist I have seen in WrestleMania in a while, yeah, that earned him tons of respect, as well as a huge pop. But besides all that, the match itself was extremely predictable. Of course, the faces are going to win. And the faces stay triumphant in the ring. And I really didn't care much for that because of how predictable it was. But despite all that, my overall thoughts is this. It was good. Like, I'm not going to say that Raw was bad. The wrestling was good. And that always makes Raw good, is the fact that wrestling was good. There's a lot of inconsistencies in the storyline, though, which does drive me crazy. And there's a lot of inconsistencies with the character, which drives me crazy. Especially Randy Orton. If you beat somebody clean, that means feud's over. You don't deserve a title shot. You just gotta earn it again. Or whatever. Like, I don't really want to see Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins 2. And I'm hoping that's over. But either or, we don't know because he's a part-timer too. But either or, guys, it was a pretty good Raw. Like I said, inconsistencies in the storyline that they really need to work on, as well as the inconsistencies with the characters that they really need to work on. But other than that, the wrestling's great. But I want to hear your thoughts about this Raw after WrestleMania. Leave a comment in the comment section below or send a video response on your personal thoughts about this Raw after WrestleMania, and what do you think, should there be any improvements, or whether or not it should be good the way it is? I want to hear y'all's thoughts. It's Nature Girl 30 signing off. Peace out, y'all. Later.